Oscar goes Taiwan, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Director Ang Lee.
And the Oscar goes to Ang Lee for Brokeback Mountain.
This is the first Academy Award for Ang Lee.
And the Oscar goes to Ang Lee.
Including his nomination this year for Best Picture for Life of Pi.
Thank you for favoring us with your presence, and thank you for enlightening the young people. And we really appreciate your appearance. And you are actually the only one and the most revered one to give us advice. Wish you good health, and we look forward to seeing your next film.
Thank you, Lisa. I just want to congratulate CESASC for its 58th convention anniversary. And I'm very proud to be part of it. And I wish everybody well, healthy, and safe in this crazy time. Let's keep making movies and keep moving forward. Bring some light to the world.
Hello, Director Ang Lee. Nice to meet you here today. I really appreciate your time and energy in taking our interview. My name is Feng Chen. I got my film production MFA graduate degree in USC School of Cinematic Arts. I'm currently preparing my own feature film as a director. I would love to learn from a legendary director like you who makes stories for worldwide audiences. It is such an honor to be able to interview today.
And good luck.
Thank you. What touched me the most is that you insisted on making a lot of great movies during the most difficult time in your life. My parents, they're filmmakers too, and in the past years, I used to help them create their movies. And that was a very difficult experience because the cost of film reels and release prints were expensive, and also it was really complicated procedure. I deeply feel that the technology promotes the development of movies, and digitalization gives us filmmakers more space to be creative. So I really admire your effort and courage of developing the most advanced film technology right now in the industry. So as a pioneer of this new era, would you like to share with us what does 120 frame rates look like for our audience? What drives your enthusiasm towards the technology? And what's your vision in the future of this technology? Thank you.
First of all, facing today's world, a movie world, I'm as confused as anybody. I'm a very low-tech person. Things happened about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, when I made The Life of Pi, that movie. I decided to do 3D, and that requires digital filmmaking. So for the first time, I was a die-hard old-fashioned filmmaker, and very low-tech. But that's the first time I get encountered with digital filmmaking and dimensionalized movie making. And that really changed just about everything. It's my first experience, so halfway into it, things start to not make sense. Why do we go about digital filmmaking, which we had to, at least more or less, but we used old technology, something in the back, and still not as good as filming. We're imitating something 40 years ago and not as good. Something don't add up. So to see the three-dimensional movie making, I have to change to adjust to the digital filmmaking, which is the exposure to the look, which doesn't really have an aesthetic of its own. All we know is movie. That's all we know. Dimension, two-dimensional movie, square. You trust it. Like everything, I was thrown off. At the same time, I was making the most difficult movie. We got tiger, we got a kid, we got 3D, we got water. All the top-notch difficulties in a philosophical book. Try to make a very commercial and very very commercial mainstream movie. So I was very perplexed. But after that movie, I got lucky. The movie was a success, got an Oscar and everything. I got to think about how we make digital movie. We're into that era already. Film is kind of a declining industry. It's very hard to find good craftsmanship. The industry has changed. The projection, the theater changed. A lot of things changing. So I'm facing the future. It gets to what I want to do. I think digital, because it has a more realistic look, it requires dimension, because it comes along with that. To do that, your observation is a lot sharper because you have two eyes coming to a point, very much like life. It requires more realism, even though you're dreaming. So how do we dream with reality? So all those questions bother me. Everything I learned since from a kid watching movie, fantasize about it, to film school, to a professional maker, everything got thrown off. I was off balance. I feel we need something new. And 24 frame is not a starter. I think at least 60 frame, you're able to watch dimensionalized pictures where the two eyes come together. It's just two starters because your eyes, your perception is a lot sharper. So it's really about, to me, it's not about technology or what kind of movie you're making, but it's really about what movie making can be in a digital era. I think we just need something new. I'm groping. I think 120 is, it takes about 100 frames per second just to not see the stroke, to perceive the image, not only lifelike, but without problem. I think that's what it takes. And it comes to 120 because it's a multiple of 24 frames and 30 frames of television. And also when you want to do 60 frames in the future for television, it's the multiple of all that. It took a filmmaker like me to aware of there's something new there. I think it's a new sensation. I think to me, it's a changing of relationship between the viewer and filmmaker and the media. I think it's something new, but we have a lot of baggage because we watch movie for 100 years. We've been trained, we've been tuned in certain ways. We make story, we associate with movie in certain ways. I think young generation like yourself is less burdened than people like me or Lisa. We have more baggage with us, and we're proud of that. You know, we did pretty good with movie makings, human beings like everybody. We're very proud of that. But when you grab something digital, I think I don't see the point of imitating film when you have digital. I think I really encourage you. It might not be in my generation, but to your generation, you should create something new and sensational and explore new possibilities. I think that's the nature of movie. That never changes. That's old fashioned, which is keep creating new excitement, discovering new, finding that innocence we had, the original excitement to something. If you keep churning out of the same turn rice, 炒冷饭, just keep churning the same old rice, no matter how good you are, there's no excitement, there's no innocence about it. You have to be doing something and watching something that's both familiar and unknown, between wills and unwillingness. I think that's the sweet spot we want to dream. But let's not forget technologies do a service to our imagination. And I would not worry that it's too realistic or technology take over imagination, because technology can never catch our imagination. That I'm confident. Imagination is there. You never catch it. We shouldn't flatter ourselves.
You're such a pioneer of our era and just leading all of us looking towards the future. What effort and development have you made in this 120 frame rate film production or post?
The workflow is very hazardous, very difficult. I cannot even give you, I need a technician to explain what it's like, the workflow. It's very, very difficult. I would say if it's difficult for me, it's very difficult for anybody. We don't have lab, so we need to create a lab of our own to process the images, to create dailies. That lab go along with the filmmaking. It's very clumsy. I hope through our experiences, it can be as easy as just hold up a camera and shoot. It's really difficult. Even focus pulling is difficult. Your eyes are so sharp. How do you make movie with this kind of sharpness? That's very challenging. I think post needs to change. The whole process of images should change. The way we pretend something happened. You know, movies pretending something happened. No, this used to be a stat. You don't buy that anymore. And then you keep improving. In a digital era, I think we can pretend through digital efforts. 120 is for me. I think that's a new beginning, and certain brightness and a certain understanding of dimensionalized movie making, which is two eyes come to a point instead of something flat where the surface is solid. You know, screen's a screen. It's like a wall, something you trust. But when you dimensionalize, it's more illusional. It's something, you know, it's more illusion. It's more real, but more illusionized. That requires 120, I think. It's 100, right? 120 is just easy for the industry. I think that's a new beginner, and also resolution. You cannot add resolution without, because there's a relationship between resolution and frame rate. You cannot get resolution just by raising resolution. You have to raise frame rate as well. So it all come together. It's a formula. It's a scientific, no. I'm not an expert on that, but you cannot raise one or another. They all come together. It's like in science, you have an activation point. Only everything up to that point, then the new thing clicks in. That's our sensation. And it's difficult because everybody's perception when it comes to 3D, when it comes to dimensionalized images, like life, is very different. A lot more different than when everybody look at a flat screen or something, which most of the people agree what they see. This is it varies from people to people. So there's something new. I think it requires scientific studies, and scientists and artists should work together. We cannot do one just by ourselves. You have to work together. It needs experimental. It needs efforts. It takes budgetary efforts. You need to change the industry. You need to change the ecosystem. That leads to virtual production. I see some of the questions you might want to ask. What's virtual production? I think we're heading that direction. I think we're going to go through a revolutionary time in filmmaking, in creating story, in stimulate how we have to study the cognitive side, how we process image in our head to create story. I think just the rules of the game has to change. The methodology has to change. I think it's wrong to stick to the past, how we used to know, and while we're dealing with a new sensation, new stories, new ways of movie making. I think we're just in the beginning. I would like to see we have a theater Chen that can make this kind of movie available for filmmakers. And more importantly, we need filmmakers to dig in and to create those kind of cinema. You cannot just build a projection system without the goods. You have to make movies. So we need young filmmakers like yourself. We need an army of filmmakers to get into it. A whole lot of things need to change. It's very hard. If I'm doing by myself, I'm like Paul Hui. Like I kept saying, it's like the Marine lying on the barbed wire so people can step over. I didn't invent 120. It's just, to my eyes, it takes that much to see the images properly. And then there's a lot of things that come along with that. Once you see properly, how do you use it? How do you deal with focus? How do you deal with story? Where your eyes goes, when people's eyes go into different things, you see a lot more. In your mind's eye, it's a lot sharper. You can comprehend, absorb, and digest a lot more images and information, and you want more. It's very different than when you watch on the flash, how we used to watch movies. A lot of people think we're fine. We can do the same thing forever. It's all fine. Just keep doing the same thing. But I hope some of us will head on with it and discover something new, that the new excitement. And I'm really looking forward to you young generations. Just when you go ahead, career, don't forget where we come from, like us old guys. I really want to pass that along to you. I see myself as a guinea pig, like a pathway for you. I do think digital cinema is something else. It's not an imitation of film. And it's, right now it's very difficult, but I see things are changing. We're heading that direction. And the pandemic really speed that up. Because it's very hard to make the movie the same old way. You gather hundreds of people. Share experience with you, but you have to find your steps. That's what I found. Yeah, you have to find your ways. My hope is in your generation.
Wow. Thank you very much for your insight. There's so much to absorb. I believe the scientists and engineers and also filmmakers right now are all very exciting, and they're brainstorming and blood bubbling, trying to think of if there is any new way to contribute to this new technology for the future, and to help you support your filmmaking, and we all could cooperate together. Thank you very much for your time and energy and your wisdom.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, Director Anli. Nice to meet you. It's truly an honor to speak with you. So my name is Teng. I came from Taiwan to study film directing at CalArts. And I started my film career as a screenwriter. So I will focus on your philosophy of future filmmaking and storytelling. And first, I'd like to start with COVID-19 because it obviously has changed everything for everyone. So I'm just wondering, have you got any creative inspirations so far from this pandemic?
I think movies heading that direction, virtual, you mentioned, a different way of movie making. I think the pandemic's situation only speed that thing up. It might boost up 10 years. Even after pandemic, we'll see how we make movie different. So you don't go to Canada to shoot Brokeback Mountain. If you're shooting that, like in this room, like we're communicating with each other, and we put different background, and we pretend movies pretending. If the virtual, the animation, and the virtual environment that provided to the filmmakers is convenient enough, is realistic enough, then they really free filmmakers from restriction. Some will argue that I need restrictions so I can be more creative. But let's put that aside. You can almost put the budgetary issues aside, it can really expand your movie work. I'm writing something, pretend there's no budget. That's what I'm doing. I'm writing that script. And it all hell break loose because I probably lose narrative. Narrative you have to narrow down. It's, the reason it costs, the way you think about things more linear. Now it can be more expanding, like in a book. It's because I'm dramatically trained. I want to see something before I start to imagine. I want to see real people, real location. That's when the movie fashion in my head. But with virtual, you have to see it. You have to be like a painter, like a cartoon drawer. You have to see it before you start communicating, before you imagining. And that's a very different talent and skill. I think those filmmakers are in an advantage. Starting from Pi, I was forced to go that direction. I have to see it. Because with the boy, adrift on the ocean, there's no reference. There's nothing to see. With the tiger, I cannot create something for me to start imagining, to take reference, to be inspired. It has to come from here, from nothing. Abstract thinking, then visualize it, then you apply it, then you take it as it is. So it's a different process. And in that kind of movie making, it's not like you have a pre-production, then you go out to shoot. Then once you collect everything, you go to the editing room, post, they go through audience tests and studio, whatever. That very rigid kind of a production. That's how only way we know how to make movies. It might not be like that. I think for I keep saying your generation, not to look at you being young or me being old, but just the way we brought up was different. You brought up with different media, a lot of information content, very different than my generation or from Lisa's generation. I think you probably be happy doing that. But no, we just started. We don't know what that's like. And I truly hope that free you from your creativity and you can cocktail your ways. You shoot something, you pretend something, animate something, and then you make it real. And you just create your movie more in your hands, less by excavation. A movie or you wake up in the morning, filmmaker, the shooting day, you look out the window. I'm not a farmer, but I look out the window, look at the sky. You constantly deal with the limitations you're given, and you're not free to do what. I think you're gonna have more freedom.
Thank you for your encouragement. Yeah, I think pandemic has obviously changed the way we make film and probably the content of film. And I just hope probably because we are doing everything online with the virtual production, there will be more Asian filmmakers on the international market, like film industry. My next question is about Asian community, because I think in today's Hollywood, those non-English speaking films made by Asian filmmakers are more welcomed by the Western audience. And would you share your observations on this change?
It's keep improving from my student days. I see it more and more open. The first 20 years of my career, it just keep open. Lately, I think just the political atmosphere, people are more closing up. I don't like that, but just the way it is. I don't know if it's fair to say or not. I found a lot of Asian projects about young people found their parents stubborn. That's like mainstream. I would like to see variety type of movies, not ethnic drama, family drama, or coming of age. I would like to see more variety of movie makings and genres. I think for Asian or minority, to get to the broader, to get to the audience, broader or not, I think it's important and to do two principles. One is you have to be specific, like who you are, the specificity. I think people like to see something different. And you also have to understand the common knowledge, that what's in common, all humanity, the big subjects. I think you need to hit both of them. What's common, what's universal, and also what's specific.
I totally agree because you are truly a role model to bring a huge variety of different films to the audience. You have made a broad range of different genres like martial arts, superhero, and magic realism. So I'm curious, do you have an essential philosophy of storytelling, or has it evolved when you work across different genres over the decades?
Well, the philosophy comes later. The impulse. Yeah. Take the poster behind you. I grew up in Taiwan. I have nothing in common with the gay cowboy in Wyoming. Now, how do I connect with that? But I don't know. I never want to know. I know I want to do it. It speaks to me. I have an urge to do it. Then I just go about it, and I find a philosophy on the way. Philosophy is something when people ask you that question in the interview, you have to make something up. But that's not the impulse in making the movie. When you articulate something, when you put in sentence, you rationalize it. I don't believe movies are actually like that. I just don't want to believe that. I think movies are impulse. It's image. It's sight and sound. It's a heart to heart. The genre or the way I do it is a fallback of something I didn't know what to do. There will be every movie. There's a point I don't know what to do. It doesn't make sense. It cannot be understood, and then I have to trim them into some kind of shape or some kind of genre or a combination of genres or some kind of philosophy. You gotta have a theme so people know why they're watching it. But eventually, it will narrow down to a movie shape. That I would call philosophy. Over the years, the common through line of my movies, it's been changing. You know, I thought it's family trilogy is about my father, but it's not really. When I did Sense Sensibility, I thought, it's a social obligation versus personal free will. And then it just kept changing. I think growing up in Taiwan, I come from Taiwan, and come to America, and we have had some identity security issues. In some ways, in my movies, the characters really want to find something to believe, want to find faith, whether it's Pi or Brokeback Mountain. I know the characters, like myself, always want to find something to believe in that we can hold on, that doesn't change. Then sooner or later, you'll find out the only thing that don't change is everything will change on you. Nothing stands still. It can be dissolutional, but you have to hang on to something. I think that's the inner conflict I have. It appears again and again in my movies. I think that's psychology rather than philosophy. Whatever the color is, when they're watching, they're not watching you, they're watching themselves. No.
Coronavirus has had a substantial impact on the film industry, especially movie theaters.
The global film industry is facing billions of dollars in losses as theaters close and films are postponed amidst the coronavirus pandemic. The restrictions on production have hit Hollywood hard, leaving many workers unemployed or forced to work from home.
Hi, Director and Lee. Thank you for being here and giving us this great opportunity that we can talk to. My name is Zheyu Liang. I'm the first-year MFA film directing student at UCL Film School. And now we see that the pandemic continues to inflict chaos on the global film industry. How do you think the nature of film collaboration will change due to the pandemic?
I'm as confused as anybody. I don't think anybody knows. But I've mentioned one possibility is virtual production. It's less physical, more imaginative. You create your own environment. I think we're heading that direction. I think we're going to go through a revolutionary time in filmmaking, in creating story, in stimulate how we have to study the cognitive side, how we process image in our head to create story. I think just the rules of the game has to change. The methodology has to change. I think it's wrong to stick to the past, how we used to know. And while we're dealing with a new sensation, new stories, new ways of movie making.
How about the film distribution?
With the pandemic, I think there's going to be, unfortunately, a while. It's very hard to gather people safely. Right now, it's impossible. That's why everything's shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a lot of free time. We want to drama at the same time. Ironically, we want movies even more than before, while the production is shutting down. I think that's one way to deal with that. And also, I think the theater will change too. The normal business is going to be very, very hard. But high end, maybe, something worth you schlep all the way to theater, make an effort to watch something on big screen. That has to be much better than just the image that's even worse than television. Content is better, the quality is better, and why would people go to theaters? So you really have to upgrade, have something new to get people into the theater. Is like a temple for me. You need a congregation in a temple. I think that's going to be very difficult. So things has to change.
How do your filmmakers deal with all these changes or challenges?
I think I really encourage you. It might not be my generation, but to your generation, you should create something new and sensational and explore new possibilities. I think that's the nature of movie. That never changes. That's old-fashioned, which is keep creating new excitement, discovering new, finding that innocence we had, the original excitement to something.
So when you did the Life of Pi, all the scenes on the sea were shot in the studio. And also for the first time for that movie, you try a lot of new technology, like 3D filmmaking. So what can our filmmakers learn from that experience?
I'm a very low-tech person. Things happened about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, when I made The Life of Pi, that movie. I decided to do 3D. And that requires digital filmmaking. So for the first time, I was a die-hard old-fashioned filmmaker and very low-tech. But that's the first time I get encountered with digital filmmaking and dimensionalized movie making. So to see the three-dimensional movie making, I have to change, to adjust to the digital filmmaking, which is the exposure to the look, which doesn't really have an aesthetic of its own. All we know is movie, that's all we know. Two-dimensional movie, square, you trust it. Like everything, I was thrown off. At the same time, I was making the most difficult movie. We got tiger, we got a kid, we got 3D, we got water, all the top-notch difficulties. In a philosophical book, try to make a very commercial and very, very commercial mainstream movie. So I was very perplexed. But after that movie, I got lucky. The movie was a success, got an Oscar and everything. I got to think about how we make digital movie. We're into that era already. Right now, it's very difficult, but I see things are changing. We're heading that direction, and the pandemic really speed that up. But it's very hard to make the movie the same old way. You gather hundreds of people, and theater is kind of dying, closing down. What do we do? I think the answer is the unknown. It got to head to the unknown and create something new. And you have to be doing something and watching something that's both familiar and unknown. Between wills and unwillingness, I think that's the sweet spot we want to dream. I think we're in the cusp of finding something new, and I'm really looking forward to young generations. Just when you go ahead, career, don't forget where we come from, like us old guys. Well, I really want to pass that along to you. I see myself as a guinea pig, like a pathway for you.
Thank you so much. As Chinese Asian filmmakers, we would love to see more Chinese Asian films shown in Hollywood. Just like your film, The Wedding Banquet, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon perfectly show our culture to the world. And I was wondering, what kind of Chinese Asian film do you want to see more in the future?
Broader variation, good movies. Whatever. The English language movie has become established as the mainstream. So everything else is exotic. It's like offbeat. That's foreign films. Certain movies get to go in. I like to see big Chinese movies that entertain the whole world. Good movies that move your heart. We did pretty good with the art house. I hope big movies, variety movies, mainstream entertainment, to see normal human stories, genre movies. Let's do it. I think China has a great chance.
Yeah. So what should our Chinese Asian filmmakers should do to make a better film and also reach global audience in the future?
I think it's important to be honest. I hope something free you from your creative power, that you are more free to see yourself in an abstract way, more expressing yourself. You can find your audience, your connections. I think being honest is very important. I think it's important to be honest being an Asian. I think for Asian or minority, to get to the broader, to get to the audience, broader or not, I think it's important in two principles. One is you have to be specific, like who you are, the specificity. I think people like to see something different. And you also have to understand the common knowledge, what's in common, all humanity, the big subjects. I think you need to hit both of them. What's common, what's universal, and also what's specific. I think just being honest with yourself and have a broad dream. People, whatever the color is, when they watch movie, they're not watching you, they're watching themselves. So you want to think about what you can share that inspire people, the audience, instead of accept me as a minority. So what do I have to offer? To do that, you have to be very specific about your life experience, who you are. At the same time, you want to see the connection, how that connect with the people, not just you babbling your feelings.
Thank you. But now the situation is that many young filmmakers came to the US to study film, including myself, now facing great challenges and uncertain futures. So what advice would you give us relating to your study abroad experience at NYU? And do you have any outlook for a future career?
Not really. It's difficult. I know right now it's difficult. And I don't like the political situation we're in. Obviously, it's less friendly. But I don't think anything stop anyone to pursue dreams. If you have a dream, just keep at it. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. That will change the world. That's all I can say to you. Don't let things discourage you. I think you gotta look at life in a positive way. There are positive energy in the world. And even the chance is slimmer, you still have to shoot for it. That's my philosophy. Stay healthy, mentally and physically healthy. You don't know how much it's gonna take and when things are gonna take. Can suck the energy out of you. So prepare. Don't waste it. Cherish yourself. And be wise about giving it a shot.
Thank you so much. I believe with your encouragement, many young people, including myself, will keep moving with our dreams, keep making great movie. And we also look forward to see your next project in the theater soon. Thank you again.
时候过得真快，好像还在眼前。我看见你的时候，你是学生会的主席，你给我看你的毕业影片，我一看就，哎呀，惊奇，真是天才！我就觉得你一定会成功的。那么你也有这个坚持的努力，所以真金不怕火，真金永远都会出现的，都会发光的。
我是27岁，第一次见到 Lisa 的时候，我27岁。
对呀，你是学生会主席。
没有，不是。
Yeah, you were the head of the student body. Wonderful, wonderful.